everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be comparing the Book of Aladdin and the Arabian Nights to the Disney film of Aladdin that you and I know and love. For those of you who don't know, the story of Aladdin was inspired from an old tale that was written, if you go on Wikipedia, I want to say it was like from the 1700s, early 1700s. The collection of Arabic stories, they were written in Arabic. Very complicated how the collection of Arabic folk tales were collected, and there's like a bunch of different authors. I'm not even so sure everybody's 100% sure on where Aladdin came from. I think there is a name. If you, again, go on Wikipedia, do just kind of Google it. Okay, so you know the song "You Ain't Never Had a Friend Like Me," that Robin Williams classic song that he sings, and one of the lyrics in that song is Scheherazade had 1,000 tales. Yes, those tales come from Arabian Nights. When you open the book, by the way, it has all these old pictures that are like from the early 1900s, I want to say, or yeah, like little black and white, looks like pen type drawings. When you open the book, it begins telling you the story about why this king or ruler does not trust women, and he, like, every night he marries a different woman, and then because he doesn't trust women, he kills them like the day after their wedding. And so this one woman who is married to him decides that in order for herself to preserve, so that she can like keep her life, she's going to tell him a story, and it's going to be so good he's going to want to hear the ending to the story. So her name was Scheherazade. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And so she manages to spare her life by, again, telling stories every night to the ruler, to the king. And he ends up, at the end of the 1001 Nights, he ends up falling in love with her and deciding not to kill her. So it's a happy ending, but one of the tales, one of the popular, most famous tales is Aladdin, and that's where it comes from, is in that big amount of stories that she tells. Other popular ones are like Sinbad the Sailor, if you've ever heard of him. The 40 Thieves, what is it? Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, which I think Aladdin Part 2 was loosely based off. Oh my gosh, it's been so many years since I've watched Part 2 of Aladdin. I've totally forgotten it. I need to rewatch that, refresh my memory. So without further ado, let's start comparing the book to the Disney film. And I have like all these notes that I've written down, so please forgive me if I'm constantly looking down and not at the camera. When you first open the book, the first thing that kind of pops out to you that seems a little bit strange is that the Aladdin, the actual book, it says that it takes place in China. Now, when I went on Wikipedia to research this a little bit more, China, for people in the Arabic world, I guess back then, it just kind of seemed like a place that was far away. In a way, it might have been in their mind like saying in a land far, far away. Because even though it says that it's set in China, all of the Muslim culture, like they talk about mosques in Aladdin and going to visit the mosque, and they talk about like the Sultan and the Sultana and all these different Middle Eastern type customs that aren't really native to China. I guess like when I think of China, I think of more like Buddhism or stuff like that. So I guess Disney made the right call in giving it like a Middle Eastern setting, because the story itself, regardless of where it is actually geographically located, Disney kept in line with the Sultan, the idea of the Sultan and all of that. So anyway, the next big difference between the book and the Disney film is Aladdin. Okay, so in the Disney movie, Aladdin, you know, he's like this poor street rat and you feel so bad for him, and it's like, oh, poor guy, he just can't catch a break. He was born poor, and what can he do about it? You know, society just, you know, almost, yeah, it kind of feels like a caste system type feeling vibes or whatever. But no, in this book, they're like, no, he was just a lazy vagabond. Like, like the book really goes out of its way, I kind of felt, to let you know that Aladdin just, even though he has the opportunity to rise out of poverty, he chooses not to. He's just happy being poor, and he's like poor and happy, and he'd rather just be a lazy guy. And it stressed out his father so much in the book, the fact that Aladdin didn't want to learn a trade and better himself and apply himself, so to speak, that the father got so stressed out he died of it. Like, that's how bad Aladdin was. Like, like Aladdin's like, no, I'm happy being poor and lazy. Just let me be, Dad. And the dad dies. So right there, it's not really endearing yourself to Aladdin. And I kind of feel like Disney made a smooth move in not harping on the fact that he killed his didn't kill his dad, but like was so lazy that it killed his dad. I kind of feel like Disney was smart to move that out, because then you wouldn't feel bad for Aladdin. Like in the movie, you see him and the monkey Abu like feeling bad for the other poor children who were born into that situation, like poor, uneducated, or whatever. Like he like hands bread to another little kid. Like they did things to make you like Aladdin. Versus in the book, they're not trying to help you like Aladdin. They're just like, no, he's poor and lazy, and is like just gonna live like that. Like it's all good. Next difference. You know how in the Disney film Jafar is the he like transforms himself into like this crooked old man and helps lead Aladdin out into the desert to find the magic lamp. Well, in the story, that's not what happens. Instead, it's this African magician, and not Jafar, um, who lures him to the desert. Or like it's not really the desert, it's like this mountain. They just go out into the wilderness, and it's wherever some mountains are. Back to this African magician. So yeah, he's kind of like a sorcerer, so to speak, like an evil sorcerer. He has bad intentions for Aladdin, but he goes to Aladdin's house. By the way, Aladdin, the story opens where he has both parents, okay, but then the dad died, right? Because Aladdin was so lazy. So Aladdin is left with his mother. So that African magician like goes to Aladdin and his mom's house, and he's like, "Hey, I'm the long lost uncle of Aladdin." And the wife, or the widow, Aladdin's mom, is like, "I know he didn't have a brother." Like she's thinking this in her head, but whatever, we're going to play along with this African magician because he's offering to try to better Aladdin and try to help him. And he's like telling Aladdin that he can be more. He's like inspiring him to want to take up a career. So that's why they kind of learn to trust the African magician. Um, and I kind of am like a little bit like, oh, why does he have to be African? Like, I don't know. Like, why they make the villain gonna go there. I'm not gonna go all into that. I'm just, this is an old story. This is not a book that I would recommend for children to read. I would not buy this for my kid. I bought it for myself. But I kind of feel like when you read it, you have to take it like as a historical type book, like learn from history kind of thing. Um, and yeah, like it's just because there's a lot of stereotypes in this book. And but let's keep moving. Sorry, let me just get back on track here. The point is, this uncle from Africa, he's like traveled through Persia, Arabia, Syria, and the Indies, so he's like well traveled. And yeah, he's helping Aladdin. And he's like promising Aladdin that he's gonna help invest in a company, or to start up, like, so that Aladdin can become a merchant and like start a business essentially. But right before he does that, he takes him out again to the mountains and the wilderness. And instead of that big tiger cave that you see Jafar or whatever the little man conjures up in the desert, instead it's just like a regular mountain with some like rock covering a doorway, that he casts a little spell or something and it makes the boulder move away, or uncovers the door. And it has stairs that Aladdin has to go down, just like in the Disney movie. They kept the little stairs. They kept the whole thing about you can't touch anything. There's all these like temptations for Aladdin down there, but there is no monkey of Abu. So Disney added that monkey for comic relief, I guess. Oh, and also Aladdin still in the actual book has not seen the princess. Um, he is like the opening story is just all about him getting this lamp. So Aladdin goes through the cave. He eventually finds this lamp that he was told to bring back up to the African magician. And on his way out, he like, I can't remember now if Aladdin was told not to touch like the walls of the cave or what, because he did pick some jeweled fruit off of some trees, and he like stuffed or saddled himself up with all of the like fruit jewels or something that were growing off these trees, and he has the lamp. And as a result of him like coming back up the stairs to go return the lamp to the African magician, he is so like his hands are so full he can't pass the lamp to the African magician, and but he needs help to get out of the cave, kind of like in the Disney movie. But it wasn't such a tense thing. There was no time limit or anything like that. He just couldn't get out of the cave. Like, anyway, Aladdin was refusing to pass the lamp. He's like, no, you gotta help me with all this other stuff I'm carrying. And the African magician, gets so angry with Aladdin for not passing him the lamp. He just like does his little conjuring up of magic or whatever, some trick to like cover up the cave again. And he thinks he's killing Aladdin by locking him in the cave. And he's like, if he's not gonna pass me the lamp, then I'm just gonna shut him in there, because he's just so upset that Aladdin didn't listen to him and pass him the lamp. So Aladdin's like, oh great, I'm stuck in here in this cave and I'm gonna die because I can't get out of here without knowing the magic or whatever special spell sorcery that this guy used to open up the cave. I can't get out, you know. Oh, and one of the things that the African magician did before Aladdin went down into the cave was he gave him a special ring that was like that ring was like a talisman. I don't even know what a talisman is. I should probably look that up. I guess when Aladdin is in that cave, like thinking he's gonna die, he accidentally like rubs his ring or something like that, and the genie comes out of the lamp. And so this genie, when he comes out, is super scary and ugly. And according to like the lore in the book, genies are like demonic, or like they're demons or whatever. It's a super ugly thing that comes out, not like the sweet genie that we all know and love that had Robin Williams' face. Okay. And so Aladdin, he was just like so depressed and feeling like he was gonna die that he didn't even get scared of this ugly genie. The genie's like, yeah, I do unlimited wishes, you're my master, what do you want? Like, and Aladdin's like, well, I want to get out of this cave. And so the genie immediately takes him out. Also, when they're talking about the lore of genies, they make a reference to the prophet, which I'm assuming they mean the prophet Muhammad, which Disney doesn't do too much of. Like, they don't throw in any Muslim religion or anything like that, even though in the book they talk about mosques and going to pray and all of that stuff. So Aladdin like runs home to his mom, and he lets his mom know, hey, I've got this genie, he can grant wishes, let's keep this quiet, let's just order food for ourselves to eat, and we're just gonna keep it on the DL because we don't want our neighbors to know we practically won the lottery, right? So they just order food from this genie, and when the genie brings the food, he brings it on like silver platters or like gold platters. And so Aladdin and his mother are eating all the food, And then they were taking the gold platters or the silver platters that were left behind after they had eaten, and they take them to the market to sell them. You know, that's something that they don't show in the movie. But I guess what the story is trying to show you is that Aladdin, in spite of his being having been lazy and uneducated, he starts to develop a mind of like managing the money that I guess he does win, so to speak. Oh, and the African magician, by the way, he ran away back to Africa where he was from because he doesn't want people to get the idea that he murdered Aladdin or like that he had anything to do with Aladdin missing. So you don't have to worry about like the African magician at this point in the story coming back or anything to get the lamp back. But anyway, the point is that Aladdin is learning to not just go and like wish for everything. Like in the Disney film, Aladdin immediately starts to wish for the hand of the princess and to make himself into a prince. But again, that's not happening. We haven't even met the princess at this point in the book. So, another thing that they do in the story is Aladdin gets cheated by a greedy person, and there are stereotypes of certain nationalities of people, and I won't go into detail because I don't want to get canceled or something or say something offensive or infer something offensive. But I feel like, again, when you read this book, use discretion, use discernment. Again, this is not a book that I would be reading to kids. Yeah, there's a lot of political controversy, let's just say that. So he has some greedy person that he comes across who is cheating him and not giving him as much money as the silver and gold platters are worth. And then Aladdin encounters an honorable goldsmith who's like, hey, you've been getting swindled. I am going to show you what these plates are actually worth, and I will pay you the real value for the plates. And so Aladdin, he befriends the goldsmith, and the goldsmith like helps him and helps to educate him. And Aladdin, as he is selling these plates, like he himself is becoming a merchant and having a noble means, making a noble living, and he is learning from the other merchants. In my notes here, I have he becomes friends with merchants who teach him, and he acquires knowledge of the world. So I kind of feel like Disney skipped over the whole Aladdin getting his life together kind of thing and becoming a better person in that way. But anyway, so then the book starts to get a little bit more exciting to me when they introduce the princess. And her name is not Princess Jasmine in this book. It is, I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's like Princess Boudir al Boudoir. Is it pronounced Boudoir or Boudoir? I don't know. But I'm just going to say Boudir al Boudoir because that sounds better to me. And I don't know, that's like a French pronunciation or something, but I don't know if that's correct. Anyway, the point is that the princess comes from the Sultan's palace to go and bathe. And I don't know why the princess has to come and bathe in the city, but as a result of the princess coming to bathe, everybody has to go be shut up in their homes. And because, you know, like in the Middle Eastern culture, you know, women tend to cover themselves more. I think it says that she has a veil over her face, like nobody can see her. Anyway, but she comes into the city, everybody's got to lock themselves in their houses, and Aladdin hides because he had heard about her great beauty and he wants to see if it's true. So he hides behind the bath door, and I don't know if he sees her nude or whatever, but he sees her in all of her glory, so to speak, right before she's about to get in the bath, and he falls head over heels in love with her. He thinks she's the most beautiful thing he's ever seen, and he makes up his mind that he needs to marry her. There's just no other way to live unless he is married to her. So Aladdin runs home. He tells his mom, hey, mom, I got to marry this princess. And the mom's like, I got you, boy. Let me go to the Sultan. And she goes to the Sultan carrying the, remember in the cave how I had mentioned that he had picked like jeweled fruit? He has that jeweled fruit still that he had like kept in his house and he was hiding it. Well, the Aladdin's mom takes that jeweled fruit to the Sultan and she's like, check out all these like diamond apples or whatever. Like, we will give these to you if you will give your daughter to my son Aladdin. And the Sultan's like, well, even though he doesn't know who Aladdin is and he doesn't really care, I guess he just sees like wealth or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I'll give you my daughter's hand in marriage. But then the royal vizier, which in the Disney film is Jafar, is the royal vizier to the Sultan. He's like, no, in the story, in the book, he's like, no, you need to wait and hit pause, like, try to find something better, see if somebody else offers a better price for your daughter. So the Sultan's like, you know what, you're right. Come back in 3 months. If I don't find somebody better for my daughter, your son can have her. And so she's all right, because she's thinking, like, the Sultan's not going to find anything better than this. Like, but crafty little Jafar character, his name is not, they never give him a name in the book. He's just called the Royal Vizier. So the Royal Vizier decides to set up his own son with the princess because he's like, no, no, I'm going to give that girl's going to my son. And so I guess he like all shady, like sneaks in and ends up marrying off or tries to marry off his daughter or his son to the Sultan's daughter. And so somehow Aladdin finds out about it. So, like on the wedding night, I'm not quite sure how the wedding festivities take place because I guess it's like over several days or something. So, I'm not sure if the royal vizier's son actually married the princess or what. All I know is that Aladdin hears about this little plot that the royal vizier is trying to do, and he orders the genie to bring the princess and the groom or whatever, the royal vizier's son. He orders them to his house that night, and he's like, look, you're not going to be with Jasmine. He puts the groom like in his underwear and in some random house and makes him stay there, and I guess he was all cold that night. That's what the book says. I don't know, because he was in his underwear, so he was cold, it says. But then the princess, he's like telling her, he's like, look, that guy was trying to straight steal you away from me. I was supposed to marry you, but he like snuck in, and technically you should be getting married to me. And Jasmine's like, what is going on? I don't, what are you talking about? She's not hearing it. So that happens on the wedding night. So then in the morning, Aladdin sends them back to whence they came. And Jasmine's all like distraught in her bed, like crying. And she has her mother. Her mother is still alive in the actual story. So that was Disney who took away Jasmine's mom because she technically had her mom in the original story. Disney just wanted to make it one of those princess without a mom type things. And so anyway, she tells her mom, she's like, Mom, this dude, he like took me away in the middle of the night and I wasn't able to have a nice wedding night or whatever. And the mom's like, what are you talking about? So like the sultana is like, is it true what my daughter says that you were taken away and all that stuff, and that you actually weren't supposed to marry Jasmine, that the other guy was supposed to marry her? And they were like, no, that's not true. They were like denying everything. They're like, all right, I get, like, they choose to believe the royal vizier and his son. And so the festivities continue on for the wedding, but Aladdin does it again. He calls back that guy to his room. Like the genie, I guess, just picks them up and puts them in Aladdin's room, and they're like, look, you're not supposed to marry Jasmine, you're getting in the way. And I guess once again, they put him in his underwear in some house, and he's all cold the whole night. And Jasmine's all distressed, getting told how she's not supposed to marry that dude. And so Aladdin sends them back home by the next morning. And the royal vizier is like, oh man, they're just whoever is summoning my son, Like, he's just going to keep doing this. So, you know what? We're just going to pull out. We're going to leave these people alone, and we're not going to try to marry the princess anymore. We're peacing out. So Aladdin's mom returns, and she's like, Sultan, listen, you gotta hear me out. You told me to come back in 3 months' time, and if anybody had a better offer, like, you would let me know. But I don't think you've gotten a better offer. And the Sultan is like, you're right. You know what? I'll let you have my daughter to marry your son if you can, like, bring me 40 slaves carrying gold plates on their heads, and it's got to have all this treasure on it. And the Sultan wants, yeah, 40 slaves, but he wants 20 of the slaves to be white slaves, and he wants 20 of the slaves to be black slaves. And I know, I'm shocked. So when you're reading this story, you have to consider the time in which it took place. And, we're talking about the 1700s. I feel like this book could be a great conversation starter to have some difficult conversations on slavery too. So it's something to think about. When they are talking about the slave scene, it definitely gave me vibes of the parade when Aladdin was riding on Abu, who had turned into an elephant. That whole, he's got 75 golden camels. That whole scene, I feel like it is from this part of the story where the mom has to go and prove that Aladdin is worthy. And so right away, Aladdin, he summons the genie. He makes it happen that all these slaves come and bring the gold platters filled with treasure and sends them to the Sultan. He also orders the genie to give him that full head to toe makeover, like the Disney film. That really did happen in the book, where the genie helped him out to look all posh. But instead of riding on a monkey that had turned into an elephant, he was riding on like a fancy horse. And also, he had the genie order slaves that had like lots of gold and like were dressed super fancy to like throw money out at people as he was parading himself to the Sultan's palace. And so the scene where people are picking up all the money and loving on Aladdin, that really does kind of happen in the book, but instead of on an elephant, it's on a horse. And yeah, it is kind of like a parade to the palace. So Disney, I guess, was inspired by that. They didn't have to like go into the whole, you know, all the sketchy stuff of that time period. So Aladdin marries the princess Budir al Boudoir, or whatever, however you say her name. He marries her, and they seem really happy. Even the Sultan like has them build a palace next door to him, and he and Jasmine are living there super happy. The palace is made of like all these precious stones and emeralds, and yeah, it's like this dazzling palace. It looks like a dream according to the book. So it is during this time that Aladdin is living the dream and chilling in the palace with his wife, that the African magician realizes that Aladdin is living it up and has escaped from the cave, and he has the magic lamp. And he's like, oh my gosh, I gotta go get that lamp, because he hears about all the wonders of this famous Aladdin guy living in the palace. So that African magician comes back. He somehow manages to convince Jasmine to give him the lamp, because Jasmine at that point did not know about the genie and the lamp. She just thought it was some old, ugly old lamp. So, like, there was some lamp peddler that was like, "Oh, we're taking old lamps and replacing it with new ones." And so Jasmine's like, "Oh, I have a dusty old ugly lamp. It's in Aladdin's room. Let me go get it." So she goes. She thinks she's doing a good thing by replacing the ugly old lamp with a brand new nice one for Aladdin. Again, not realizing that that was a magic lamp that she was giving away. And so the African magician's all, ha ha, I've got the lamp now. And he wishes for her palace to be lifted up and taken back to Africa where he lives. And he moves it to Africa, and he keeps the princess in Africa, in that palace, and he's like gonna make her his bride now. Kind of like it gives you the vibes of when Jafar stole the princess and how he was going to make himself be the husband, and she's like, ew. And the sultan, by the way, is really upset that the palace is gone where his daughter lived next door. And he tells Aladdin when he comes back from the hunting trip, he's like, you better find my daughter or I'm going to kill you. Like literally he gives him 40 days or he'll be beheaded, because it's super cutthroat in this time in this story. Like Aladdin's like, don't worry, I'm gonna go get your daughter back. This whole thing is gonna be fixed. But Aladdin's like realizing, oh, like, how am I gonna do this? He like straight, I don't even know where they went or whatever. And Aladdin goes to commit suicide. So that's another hot topic type thing, that you can talk about in a discussion. Like, I feel like this would be a good, yeah, it's got all kinds of conversation starters. So Aladdin's going to commit suicide in the story, and when he goes to commit suicide in this river to drown himself, he accidentally rubs the magic ring, forgetting that he doesn't actually need the lamp. He just needs to rub this magic ring that was on his finger, and it conjures up the genie, because it doesn't matter if you have the lamp or the ring, both work. Yeah. So anyways, the genie takes Aladdin back to the palace, and he's like, look, this guy stole your wife. And he kind of helps Aladdin to like get a hold of some powder, it's like a poisonous powder. And Aladdin finds his wife, the princess Budir al Budor or whatever, and he's like, look, we're gonna put this powder in some alcohol and we're gonna drug this guy. You're gonna flirt with him or whatever, trick him, and he will drink the drink and he will die. So that is exactly what Jasmine does. She uses her little womanly wiles, gives the spiked drink to the African magician, and he dies as soon as he drinks this poison drink. As soon as that happens, Aladdin grabs the lamp. He wishes himself back to the Sultan's palace, and all is well in the world. The Sultan is happy to see his daughter again. Aladdin's happy to have the palace back where it needs to be. But it is not over yet, because the African magician had a brother who found out about all this. So he's like, I'm going to go get revenge for my brother. That Aladdin killed my brother. So he goes to the city where Aladdin lives, and he goes and he kills this woman named Fatima. Now, Fatima is like a Mother Teresa / Jesus figure. Like, people touch her and they get healed. She's got like all these wise sayings, and she fasts, and people look up to her for her religious ways. She's charitable. She is all things like holy and good. And so everybody like doesn't necessarily worship her, but she is highly revered in the city where Aladdin and the Sultan and everybody lives. And so Fatima is like dead. She's been murdered by the brother of the African magician, and he puts on all her clothes and he dresses up as her, and he goes walking near the palace, and the princess Budir al Budwar sees Fatima, and she wants to become a better person. The princess does. So she like takes in Fatima, well, it's a false Fatima, into her palace, and she's like, you got to stay with me and I'm going to learn from you. I'm going to become a better person. And the princess Budir al Budwar is different from the Disney princess, because the Disney princess was not a prize to be won. She was not caring about riches or wealth. That was not important to her in the Disney film. But in this book, she was interested in money. She's happy being wealthy. She definitely was not going to marry some poor guy. Like, it was just the cultural way, I guess, in the setting. It just kind of seemed like, yeah, like riches and wealth, Anyways, it I'm just telling you what's in the story, okay? But Jasmine, so she sees Fatima and she's like, you know what? I see that I have room to improve. I want to be better. Tell me, Fatima, all that you can tell me and teach me. But of course, this is not the real Fatima. And so Fatima's like chilling in the palace for a couple of days, and Jasmine's like, "So what do you think of my beautiful palace? Isn't it so great? Like, do you love it? Are you having fun here?" And Fatima's like, "It's great." It's not the real Fatima, of course. She's like, "It's great, except it needs a roc's egg hanging from this hall or whatever, and then it will be perfect." And I don't really know what a rock is. I will put a picture of it on the screen. It's like a fictitious creature, um, fantastical creature that was featured in the 1001 Nights, the Arabian Nights tales. Um, but it's like some giant egg or whatever that this Fatima woman says that she must have hanging, and then it will be perfect. It will be like one of the wonders of the world, like kind of, I guess, like the seven wonders of the ancient world, I guess, like the pyramids of Egypt and all that stuff. It'll become one of the wonders of the world if only it has that roc's egg. And so Jasmine, or her name's not Jasmine, Fatima, the princess Budir al Boudoir runs to Aladdin. She's like, "Aladdin, our palace isn't perfect. You have to put this roc's egg and hang it in our hallway, like this Fatima woman says, or else my life's over." I don't know. She doesn't really say my life's over, but Aladdin's like conjures up the genie, and he's like, "Genie, you need to put the roc's egg there, hanging up there, because my woman wants that." And the genie's like, "No, no, you don't want that, because that creature or whatever is going to come and eat you and kill you. That was actually a trick, that Fatima woman was trying to play on you. It's not even really Fatima. It's the brother of the African magician. He's coming to kill you. And you need to be aware, because this genie had allegiance to Aladdin. And that's another difference between the Aladdin film from Disney versus the book. There are unlimited wishes, and this genie has no aspirations to become free whatsoever. And that whole idea of being free is never even brought up, which I find interesting that Disney decided to do that. I guess they didn't. It's like Disney was trying to atone for the idea of slavery, I guess, in the setting the genie free or something. I'm not quite sure. I really like that storyline that Disney did. I like that twist and change in this story. You don't feel sympathetic for the genie at all, because you consider him like some devil character, some demon thing. But he's not like evil, because he never makes the wishes bad the way Jafar did in the part 2 Aladdin film. He's just he's just like doing his job, and he's faithful to Aladdin. So he's like telling him, "Dude, that guy's trying to kill you. Don't I'm not going to even do that wish for you, because it's just going to be wishing ill on you, and I'm not trying to do that." So Aladdin's like, "Thanks for letting me know," and like, "Peace out." So Aladdin like takes some saber knife type thing, and he lays down in his bed, and he's pretending like he's really sick and he needs Fatima to cure him, because remember that Fatima had the special thing where if you touched her, you could be cured or healed of your sickness. So he's like pretending to be sick, hiding a knife underneath. He's going to kill this false Fatima. And so like Fatima comes to his bedside, because the princess is like, "Oh, you got to go see my husband so you can be cured, so you can cure him." And so Fatima or the false Fatima is technically going to go try to kill Aladdin on the bed, but Aladdin beats him to it. He's like, "Psych," and he like stabs him to death. And at first the princess Budir woman is all, "What are you doing? You're killing Fatima." And Aladdin's like, "No, that's not Fatima. Look." And he pulls off the wig or the mask or whatever. And he's like, it's actually the African magician's brother. He was trying to kill us and steal the lamp again or whatever. And the princess is like, "Oh my gosh." Yeah. And so it's just crazy, I guess. It's all this craziness. But that's kind of how the story ends. Like the sultan grows old and he dies, and the princess Boudir al Boudoir, whatever, she becomes the new sultana. So that's another difference between the Disney film and the book, is that the princess never had to worry about becoming the ruler. Like she was always going to become the ruler. I feel like didn't in the Disney film he was like, you must be married to a prince by your next birthday or whatever, or I guess she wasn't going to be able to rule or something like that. And that's no, like that was like never an issue in the book. But anyway, Aladdin by default also rules because he is the husband to the princess, but they do make it known that she inherits the throne, and they word it like that. And the story just kind of ends like they lived happily ever after. And so I don't know. So comment below and let me know what was the most surprising difference or similarity to you. Oh, no magic carpet, by the way. I forgot to mention that. In fact, I'm trying to remember if in the whole book, if they even mention one magic carpet, because they have a magic carpet here. I feel like it might have gotten mentioned in one of the stories. I just don't remember it. It was so brief, and the carpet didn't have any kind of personality whatsoever. It was just the magic of like they do have like genies in various stories in this Thousand and One Nights or Arabian Nights, and so I feel like it's just a side effect of the magic that they can make a magic carpet fly, if I'm not mistaken. I can't even remember, like it was so fast. Like if they do fly on a magic carpet. Comment below, let me know what you thought about the differences and similarities. Is this a book that you think you would be interested in reading? And also, oh, on the back of the book, it also says open sesame. That saying, open sesame, is so famous. And I don't even think it's in the Disney Aladdin movie. It might be in the 40 Thieves movie, but it's from the 40 Thieves story, which is in here. And so I feel like that's kind of like a historical thing worth knowing. It's like, where do we get certain sayings? We get them from old stories. And this book is definitely like world famous in history of classic folk tales. Um, but yeah, it's kind of fun to learn from history, learn about other cultures. There's definitely some political, controversial type things in this book that I guess I should have been prepared for it, but I just wasn't prepared for it at the same time. So, anyways, it's part of my historical folktale library. I do find it interesting to hear folktales about or folktales that are native to other countries. I have another book that is a collection of Native American folk tales that I'm really excited to eventually read. It's on my to read list, but not anytime soon. But it's like this video if you liked it, share this video if you think somebody might get a kick out of it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more Disney book comparisons, original film to the book type, the original story kind of thing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Bye bye.